got very few on the wall, but the problem is we got very few in the room. Where is everybody? Y'all need to tell them that we still do take roll. Okay, we've got a couple of amendments that people have proposed. Ed, you want to talk about yours for a minute? You got a bill? No, it's not on council. You want to present it anyway? I can. Okay.
Wasn't expecting this, Mr. Chairman, but I appreciate it. Senate Bill 131, which is the airport bill that I think I've talked to some of y'all about individually. It is develop a new structure for the airport management for Hartsfield-Jackson, and didn't bring my notes with me, but it was brought about from a study committee that the Senate colleagues and I had back in the summer, where we studied the potential pitfalls and also potential advantages for the state of Georgia to have a management structure. And I would ask that I'd be happy to take any questions, Mr. Chairman, or speak further on it if you like.
You have no questions.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. All right, Chairman Setzler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got for you here, hot off the presses from Leeds Council, AM 440119. It's an amendment to Senate Bill 9 that addresses the concerns discussed in this committee yesterday. The amendment addresses two things. The underlying bill is a code section that deals with unlawful sexual contact between teachers and students, between counselors and their clients. Also, it gets into a law enforcement context as well. The language on line 5 and 6 is the change in the first part. It addresses something that Representative Martin raised yesterday. There are students who are still students in high schools that are also employed by the school for various jobs. And this is a clarification that if their student is still an enrolled student in a school while they're an employee, their employee status doesn't then make them commit crimes if they have sexual relationship with another student. The parts on the bottom, Mr. Chairman, lines 7 and 8, in essence creates a circumstance where people under the age of 21, and again, let me be clear for all members of the committee, this entire code section deals with people who are engaged in what would otherwise in any other context be consensual sexual contact. So we're talking about any circumstance that would typically be consensual sexual contact. If you're in a hospital setting or a school setting or a law enforcement setting, that consensual contact's now it's been made illegal by this code section for 10 years now. What this does is, as we restructure the code section, people who are both under the age of 21 who meet these criteria would just be guilty of a misdemeanor. You wouldn't have any exposure to felony treatment under the age of 21 by virtue of this amendment. I think the lady, Pro Tem Jones, asked that question about people in 18, 19 years old who are an employee and a student or a hospital worker or otherwise. This makes sure that anyone under the age of 21 wouldn't be exposed to any felony treatment as could be exposed otherwise. Be glad to answer questions.
All right, does anybody have any questions of the author as to AM 440119? You have no questions. Senate Bill 9 is on the floor today. It is modified structured, so if the Rules Committee adopts this amendment, then it will be distributed out on the desk, and it will travel with the bill and be voted on by the membership. You make that in the form of a motion? Okay. There's a motion. Is there a second? Is there objection? Then it goes to the floor. Now talk, yeah, now you've got another one?
Mr. Chairman, AN 281753,
Ed, pull your mic a little bit away. Thank
okay.
you.
I'm going to withdraw this amendment, Mr. Chairman. This was going to be offered for the majority office for some cleanup, but they're going to find another vehicle to carry this. So.
Okay. That amendment's been withdrawn. Okay. Chairman Martin.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Members have on your desk a substitute to Senate Bill 117. This was done with some of the comments, questions I asked, some of the comments from Whip Kelly yesterday relative to the payment of the actual actuarial expenses over a time period. Essentially, it just deletes the code section 47-20-7 that allows for the payments to be made over time. The author was after protecting the pension systems, and I think this will help us accomplish that task. So that's the only change in the substitute, Mr. Chairman, with the exception of it was also in the preamble to the bill. You know, there was a line that spoke to the payment schedule being in there, and that was also deleted, but that's the only change to the bill. Be happy to answer questions if members have that. We're trying to solidify the pension system and keep them stable for our current employees and current retirees.
Chairman Benton has a question.
Chairman Martin, did you not get the letter that I put on your desk yesterday from the head of ERS stating that in those payments and also in a full, if they pay it all at one time, that there is interest on that money because it's been, the actuarial has moved out about 10 to 20 years on what the full actuarial value is?
To answer the gentleman's question, I did get the letter, and at that time, the actuarial cost would be full actuarial cost, absolutely. Over the 10-year period, nobody can look in the future at mortality rates, at interest rates. Specifically, defined benefit plans work if they're actuarially sound and done correctly because of the law of large numbers. When you let specific individuals choose to invest, and especially over a period of time, the risk gets pushed back on the taxpayer, and when it gets pushed back on the taxpayer, it gets pushed back on everybody else in the plan. It's a question of policy, Chairman Benton and Chairman Powell, but it is my belief, and I have talked to the executive director at ERS, that there is some risk to the taxpayer even though full actuarial costs are being paid, and there's more risk if it's being paid over time.
Can I continue on, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
There's been no conveyance of from the executive director to me on that accord, and that the interest rate is the same as what the retirement system is projecting out to be its earned rate as well. In other words, they're not getting a better interest rate than what the retirement system is paying.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, just to follow that up, it's the interest rate is set at the time when the employee wishes to buy in and finance it over time. By definition, as we know in the economy, interest rates change over time. So that could be to the benefit of the employee, it could be to the benefit of the system. But the truth is, Mr. Chairman, is individuals would make this decision because it's good for them. It's a zero-sum game. The only individuals that are going to do this is when it's a good deal for them and not for the system. And therefore, the people that do it would do it. It'd be a good deal for them. Since it's a zero-sum game, it would be a bad deal for the system and the rest of the employees in the fund and for the state taxpayers. That's my opinion, Mr. Chairman.
All right. For those who have had a little bit of difficulty in following the issue, this bill provides a needed stopgap for people who buy credible service, whether it's for military service or whatever and buy an additional retirement time, there is not currently a requirement that they pay the full actuarial cost of this time. And so this bill requires that. That's the underlying issue, and that has not changed. But what the disagreement is about this is to whether they should be given time to pay, or whether if they want to buy the credible service, they just pay for it, buy it, and it's done. So then you don't run into an issue about whether, you know, assumptions have changed, market has changed, interest rates have changed, or whatever. So that is the disagreement. Chairman Martin's bill would take out the provision allowing time to pay up to 10 years and would just basically make it you have to buy it. And Chairman Benton's version of the bill that came from Mr. Black over in the Senate is that you should have time, whether it's a year or 5 years or 10 years, to pay, and so this amendment would take that provision out. So are there any other questions or discussion? All right, you've got a motion. Is there a second? All right, there's a motion, second. Any other discussion? All right, since we have a disagreement, I'm going to assume that there is an objection. So now I'll call the question. All in favor of the amendment to remove the time to pay provision, raise your hand. Right, to move it to the floor for a vote. All right, raise them so I can see them. Okay. All opposed to the amendment? The amendment's on and will go to the floor. All right, it's a rule substitute, is that right? Okay, it will be a rule substitute that will go to the floor. Okay, that was fun. Senators on the wall, if y'all have got a bill that has not yet been presented, you can present it. But if y'all have already presented, y'all don't need to be here. All right, let's set a calendar for Thursday. House Resolution 228 under modified open. It's on. SB 2 under modified structured. It's on. Under modified structured, SB 6. It's on. Modified structure, SB 72. It's on. Modified structure, SB 77. All right, there's a motion to move it to the floor. There's an objection. All in favor of moving it to the floor, raise your hand. Opposed? It's on. Yeah, he's going to make a motion. Modified structure, SB 135. It's on. Modified structure, are you ready for SB 200? Okay. Forget that. That will be the calendar for Thursday. There is, to sort of give you a posture, there may be a few bills that are still coming out of committee, and that, and I think there are other bills that may be being viewed as vehicles that may come out of committee. And so I would anticipate that there are 13 or 14 bills on the calendar for today. And we just put 6 on the calendar for Thursday. So one of the days there will probably be a supplemental calendar, but we're getting down to the short rows on this now. So we will not meet tomorrow. We will meet Thursday morning at 9. We're adjourned. Oh, wait. I did it again. Motion from Chairman Hatchett.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we limit debate provided by Rule 33.3 to an hour for all bills and all calendars today to be allotted by the Speaker.
All right, there's a motion and there's objection. All in favor of limiting debate on all bills, raise your hand. Opposed? It carries. We are now really adjourned.